Donald Trump has been saying for quite some time now that this whole Ukraine scandal is made up by the Democrats. They're trying to undo the 2016 election. He had a perfect phone call and he didn't do anything wrong, and this is all a big waste of time. Luckily, the American public isn't buying his lies. The most recent sets of polls that have come out have had some really bad news for the President of the United States. Not only do we have a majority now supporting impeachment and removal from office, but state polls for the President of the United States are starting to look even worse for Donald Trump. Latest poll out of the state of North Carolina shows that Donald Trump has suffered a almost 5% drop in support in the state since the Ukraine scandal broke. Almost 5% in a state that he only won by 173,000 votes. A state that only once in the last 40 years has voted for a Democrat. And now his approval rating in that state is a little under 40%. This trend is happening in states across the country. We are seeing this happen in more and more places that have essentially been Republican strongholds. And that's why this is important. Not because it means, hey, we could flip the state blue in the next presidential election. Nope. That's important, but that's not as important as the following. The only way to get Donald Trump out of office is if we can convince Republicans that he's hurting them. If his approval rating continues to fall in individual states where we can quantify it at that local level, Republicans will be eventually willing to turn on the president. And that's what's important here. That's what this is about. In North Carolina, both their senators are Republicans. All but 3 of their representatives are Republicans. They voted for a Democratic governor in 2016. That's a big deal. If Donald Trump's corruption, as this Ukraine story unfolds and we find out more and more information about his potentially criminal activities, his approval rating in these states is going to fall, and eventually it's going to bleed over to the Republicans who are protecting him. That's inevitable if more damaging information comes out. Now, if this impeachment probe goes nowhere, obviously, President might still be unpopular, but the Republicans in the state aren't going to pay the price for it. But if they continue to defend this man, as more information comes out about his misdeeds, they will pay a price. And eventually, it's going to become a price that they're not willing to pay. Now, as we have said before, Republicans are willing to take a few point drops. So if it's 2-3% of support they lose for backing the president, they're fine with that. Anything more than that, when you start hitting the 5-6-7% margin of a drop in support, things get a little bit iffy. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could happen. But if it doesn't happen, then there is a 0% chance that any Republicans are going to vote to remove Trump from office. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.